How are you? You having a good day?
I'm good. I'm good. I heard the Zoom, but I didn't hear you. Yes, it's been very busy. It's been a very busy
Okay.
day, but good.
Well, very, very good. Well, Ben Armenta, we are happy to have an opportunity to interview you today. You are running for Republican Party of Texas chairman. And so, to just give you an overview of how the questions will work, I'm going to give you a chance to do an opener. I'll go over that with you. Then we have some other questions that are maybe long form, and they are designed to give you an opportunity and more than one opportunity to set forth your vision for the Republican Party of Texas, some specifics on how you would go about that job. It is to highlight your character qualities and your beliefs. We have just a couple of actual policy questions as they relate to the platform. And then we will have some short form answers at the end, but we are not timing you. We've allocated right at an hour for this. And everybody so far has been able to get through all of the questions and then have a close to close the deal with the delegates and alternates. So we will begin with giving you a chance to identify the character qualities, the core beliefs and experience that make you right for chairman of the Republican Party of Texas.
So you're breaking up there, and I don't know if that was me or you. It could be on my end. Are you hearing me okay?
I can hear you fine.
Okay, great. Well, I think I heard the question there. It was about core beliefs, or could you maybe restate it one
Yes,
more time?
please identify the character qualities, the core
Mhm.
beliefs, and the experience you have that makes you the right choice for chairman of the Republican Party of Texas.
So, well, thank you again. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. Appreciate everything Grassroots America does to connect candidates with constituents all across the state and beyond. It's a very important role, the role of chair of the Republican Party of Texas. And I tell people all the time that the most dangerous person in politics is an uninformed voter. So anything we can do to help the delegates and others understand why I'm running for this role, it's super important. And I'm glad to take the time to be with you guys today. The character qualities that are needed for this particular role require a broad range of stakeholder skills. You have to understand how to listen to people. I mean, there are 254 counties, 31 Senate districts. Texas and Republicans in Texas are extremely diverse, regardless of what the Democrats say. We have very broad ideas, but there's a common thread of conservatism that is rooted in the Republican Party. And so the chair must, first and foremost, be very skilled at understanding the unique characteristics of those 254 counties, must be able to involve all of those chairs, the entire grassroots in the Republican Party process. We are a fantastic party because we are bottoms up, and people can put their fingerprints on our platform, and they can put their fingerprints on where we are going as a party. But the chair has to enable that. The chair has to create an inviting, collaborative, focused culture around those types of things. The core beliefs that help us and would help me to be able to do that job well is being grounded in God and my faith, having a strong family network. That we are a party that loves and believes in a strong nuclear family, and having families be at the center of everything that we do. And that's how I live my life. My family's involved in my campaign. They're extremely supportive of the work that needs to get done. And this never really is about the position, it's about the work. And so the experience I bring to the table, I think, is very unique. I've been involved in Republican politics and grassroots work, but as a businessman and as a father and as a constituent, I've served on the board of organizations like HRBC, Houston Region Business Coalition in Houston. I've served on the board of Hispanic Republicans of Texas doing community outreach. I've personally funded numerous candidates from school boards to congressional candidates, Court of Appeals candidates, all kinds of folks all across the state of Texas. I've blocked walk for candidates that aren't even in my district. I've gone and advocated at school boards, but it's not about trying to seek some position. It's about outcomes. And when you're a businessman, you're very outcome focused. You want to be transparent. You want to be forthright. You want to make sure there's a clear focus and drive, and then you deliver results. So those are the things I'm focused on and that I'm going to bring to the table as chair.
Thank you. Where can the job description of the RPT chair be found? And would you please cite your understanding of some of those top official duties?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm traveling, and I think that broke up there. Can you say that one more time?
Yes, yes. Where can you find the job description for the RPT chair? And could you cite your understanding of some of those official duties?
Well, the job description is found in the SREC bylaws. It outlines the responsibilities. The chair is one member of a committee. It is an executive type role, but it's an operations role. This isn't a policy making role. There's absolutely advocacy that's a part of this position. I believe that the number one responsibility of the chair is to be laser focused on beating the Democrats, figuring out how we as a Republican Party can hold our red seats for the next generation and can go take on and tackle and secure blue seats to flip them to red. But the second most important job of the chair is to be an advocate and a champion of the party platform. Yes, there's a lot of operations around running the committees, doing appointments, ensuring the right people are involved from all across the state in the various initiatives of the Republican Party. We've got a lot of work to do, but the chair it's a unique position, and it's a party position. That's why it's chosen by the delegates. I think it needs to remain to be selected and chosen by the delegates. And if people who are not delegates want to participate in that process, then I encourage them to get involved in their local conventions and to become a delegate in future years to be able to select their leadership. We identify our SREC members, we identify our vice chairs, we identify our committee man and committee woman. So it's definitely a process that I believe in, and the selection of the role, that's not the job description, but that's outlined in our election code and determined by the legislature and ultimately by all Texans on how party leadership is selected. And the role can evolve over time, and that's done by amending the SREC bylaws and working with the committee to determine what's needed for the chair going forward.
Thank you. Where can you find the best indicator of what the Texas Republican Party base believes about key issues? And how do you believe the RPT can best demonstrate to this voter base that they have been heard? And how would you lead that effort?
Well, the broadest way to understand the breadth of what the grassroots and the Republican Party believes is our platform. It is extremely comprehensive, and Republicans from all over the state and every county are involved in that. The synthesized, succinct, near-term focus for the Republican Party and what we believe tend to be our legislative priorities. So as we go to convention and as we work the process of determining what needs to be added or modified in our platform, we also determine what are going to be our legislative priorities given where we stand as a state going forward in the next legislative session. And now I really tell people all around the state that if they need to talk to their county chairs, they need to talk to the SREC members. But the most succinct, simple way to understand what's top of mind for Republicans is to look at our legislative priorities and to ask themselves, what have their legislators and our statewide officials done to advance those priorities?
Okay, thank you. So now I want to call your attention to the ballot propositions, the 13 ballot propositions that appeared on the March 5th Republican primary ballot. How big a role should those indicators that come from the voter base, the Republican base, how important should they be in driving the Republican Party agenda?
Well, they are important. Anytime we put something on the ballot, it's giving an opportunity for all Texans and all Republicans in our primary to let their voice be heard. We should take that very seriously. Now, is that the only variable that comes into making good legislation and good policy? Of course not. That's why we have community organizations. It's why we have coalitions. It's why before we write legislation, we should be having our senators and our representatives working their district to really understand, well, what is the pulse of these types of issues in this particular area? I'll give you an example. Let's talk about school choice. We know overwhelmingly that Republicans support some form of school choice, primarily because they have said so in prior ballot propositions that they have voted on. However, we do know that there are Republicans that are concerned about that. So we need to, in order to do good policy, you have to be good at stakeholder management. You have to collect as much data as possible. You have to thread the needle and broker the deal that makes the most sense for all Texans. And I'm fully in support of that approach.
Okay, thank you. Current Republican Party rules allow for the SREC to censure a Republican office holder that violates the party's core principles. Do you think the party should maintain and retain this rule? Why or why not?
Yes, I do believe we should retain the rules. So we're talking about Rule 44. And this is a tool that can and should be used in extreme circumstances. We all know what happens, having gone and watched and participated in the impeachment trial of General Paxton. We all know what happens when tools are put towards personal gain. But when the tools are used to benefit all Texans, then it's appropriate. And I do believe Rule 44 is appropriate. I have some ideas to perhaps strengthen when and how it's applied and what it means on the back end of censorship. But it is something that I think all the voters across, I've traveled all over Texas. I've met people in North Texas. I'm currently right now in Raymondville down in South Texas. I've been all over, and there is an overwhelming sense of pride and responsibility when you talk about accountability, and that this tool should stay as a part of our rules.
Thank you. What are some examples of those actions that you believe would represent clear violations of the party's core principle?
Well, if we talk about legislators, and we'll use that as one of the examples, when they purposefully and intentionally block legislative priorities, we expect there to be plenty of discussion and debate. We expect there to be lots of committee work. That's why those are there. It's important. We expect them to hear and listen to all Texans when they come and speak in Austin. But when a legislator purposely slow plays priorities so that it is never heard or it doesn't receive the vote or it never gets out of committee, that is an example of straying from our party principles and our legislative priorities, and would warrant that. And the same would apply for a federal representative, somebody who's in Congress. If we as Texans and as Republicans want to advance Second Amendment rights, we want to continue to protect the unborn, and somebody goes to Congress and they hinder those things, they block those things, they promote red flag laws or anything that would reflect poorly on the principles in Texas that we and the values that we believe, then that's a tool that censorship is a tool that may make sense to use in those circumstances.
Thank you. If the delegates elect you chairman of the Republican Party of Texas, what tangible metrics would you expect Republicans to use to determine if you had been successful?
The number one most important metric is wins and losses. Are we winning more seats up and down the ballots all across Texas? That is what matters most. We certainly need to retain the seats we've got, and we need to expand our footprint. See, I believe that we should be winning in every single county. There's some people who have kind of given up on some of our bluer counties, counties like Harris County, El Paso County, Dallas County. But, the people that live in those counties haven't given up. It matters to them. It matters to their businesses, to their families, to their kids. And it matters to the counties that surround those. I live in Fort Bend County. And when I moved there 10 years ago, it was all red. But it has turned pretty purple and almost blue at a blink of an eye. And it's not because of folks moving in from California or New York. It's because there are Democrats who live and are used to the policies in Harris County who are moving further out. So the metric that matters most is winning and losing. We got to hold the line where we have red seats, and we got to go on offense and attack the Democrats and win more of those blue seats and make them red. The second most important metric is fundraising. We've got a lot of ideas, and everybody has ideas around election integrity, around community outreach, around candidate identification and training. All of those are important, but you cannot grow and strengthen them without finances. So the second most important thing is raising money, and we have to do that.
Okay, thank you. So if you're elected the RPT chairman, what percentage of the party's annual budget would you like to see in donations of $100 or less? And what do you believe the party needs to do to increase those low dollar donations?
It's a great question. The way we increase our dollars is by adding trust and transparency. As I mentioned at the beginning of this interview, I don't donate to the RPT. I donate to candidates. I donate to PACs. I donate to coalitions and groups who are doing the grassroots work. When you don't have an idea of the lane that the RPT is playing in, and you don't know what they're going to do with their money, that's not a smart business move to go give them any money. I don't care whether it's $5 or $5 million. They're not going to be a good steward of those finances. When I go and give money to a candidate, I believe in them. I know what they're doing. They've articulated their vision and their ideas. When I go and give money to a small business who's trying to start up, it's because I believe, I know what they're going to do. And I'm buying into them as individuals and as a plan. That doesn't exist with the RPT. So the way that we grow individual donors is by increasing trust and transparency. So several ideas I have include I'm going to do a quarterly state of the party report. I'm going to rotate all around the state of Texas. I'm not going to reveal details that Democrats would find interesting. I'm going to reveal the details that Republicans would find interesting to build some involvement and understanding in what we're doing as a party so that they start to trust how and where we are spending their dollars. Second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create designations for donors. So if they are passionate about election integrity and securing our elections, and they want to give $100 to the RPT, they can designate that it will go to that cause and that purpose. If they're passionate about community outreach and meeting the voters where they're at in urban centers or rural centers or wherever it might be, they can donate to that. So we're going to have 4 or 5 of those designations, and then we're going to report on that. And people can understand what we're doing and why we are spending a certain amount of those dollars, maybe in the Rio Grande Valley, and a different percentage of those dollars in the Piney Woods. We want people to feel like the party is working for them, is listening to them, giving the local leadership, county chair leadership, and their county precinct chairs, giving them a voice, a seat at the table to say, here's what we need resources wise. You do that, and the dollars will start to come in. Percentage wise, I don't think there's a magic number on what needs to be less than $100. But I'll tell you this: we need to start to ask for money from more than just 3 people. We do need a donor class of wealthy individuals who are excited about the role of the party, and we need lots and lots of dollars to come in from individuals, moms and dads, and small business owners. So we're going to work, and I'm going to work to ensure that happens, that we have a diversified portfolio, and it's not strings. We in the party are going to set the expectations on how we are going to spend the money, and they're going to get excited about those outcomes.
Thank you. There is a perception that party officials must place value on opinions of high dollar donors over the identified priorities of Republican primary voters and those of convention delegates who serve in order to represent the interest back home. Do you believe that this is an accurate perception? Why or why not?
Well, it might be an accurate perception of how the current party is operating, and perception is reality. But I certainly can say that folks around the state do feel that way. So I'm kind of echoing back to you that those sentiments are authentic across the state of Texas. I'll just say that that's not how I'm running my campaign, because that's not how I intend to help run the RPT. I have spent a little bit of time reaching out to folks who have historically given to the RPT and no longer do it. I have reached out to folks who donate directly to candidates, and I've said, look, when I win this, we need you. We need you on Team RPT. We are building a team here, and we need you on it. But that's probably been about 1% to 2% of my time and my energy. I'm calling delegates all across the state. By the time we get to San Antonio, I'll have been to over 100 counties just since January. Every part of Texas matters. The priorities that people identify matters. I tell folks that my campaign and what I'm running to is to ensure that the RPT is built from the grassroots on up. It's not just a slogan. That's how we need to live our life and model our leadership. And so that's what I'm going to do. I expect everybody at the table, but no one Texan is more important than another. They're all important, and they all need to have an equal seat at the table. And that's the RPT that I envision.
Okay, thank you. So the next couple of questions will be policy-related questions. Do you support legalizing casino or online sports gambling in Texas? Why or why not?
No, I don't support opening up more gambling. So individuals who want to gamble have plenty of opportunities out of state to be able to do that. They've done it for many, many decades, and they can continue to do that for many more decades. We also have plenty of other priorities that are way more important than that, and we need to be working on those. And some of those are going to take a very long time to fully solve. Things like eliminating property taxes. That isn't just going to happen overnight or in one legislative session. It's going to take a lot of work, and that's where Texans expect us to put our attention. We've got tons of government overreach happening from the federal government. Horrible policies happening at the border. There's a lot of unwinding of bad doings that we're going to have to do. So it has should not even be near a priority for Texas. It also doesn't align with our values and our principles as conservatives. I'm a business guy. I like small businesses. I like large businesses. I think capitalism and opportunity and competition is great when it aligns to the values of the people of Texas. And I know we even have casino owners who are residents in Texas, and they have found fantastic ways to develop their businesses outside of Texas. And they've also found ways to have other businesses like restaurants and other entertainment opportunities within Texas that have benefited us all. So that's where I feel and how I feel about that.
Okay, thank you. Do you support legalizing or decriminalizing marijuana for any use in Texas, and why?
I think where we stand right now around marijuana use and its ability for in extreme medical situations for it to be prescribed, certainly end of life scenarios under a doctor's supervision, I support that. I don't think there is any need to expand any type of decriminalization. I certainly do not want more folks being arrested or penalized, but advancing cannabis and marijuana use in Texas does not align with our values. It does not align with what we espouse in Texas and our Republican Party. And so, when the time comes when Texans in the grassroots say that it's important, then we can have that discussion. But right now, it's not.
Okay, thank you. Have you ever testified at a legislative hearing? And if you have, when approximately did you do so? And what topics did you address?
Not at a hearing, but I did. I did go to Austin quite frequently to meet with legislators on behalf of Texas Right to Life and some other groups in the last handful of legislative sessions. I think testifying at a hearing is very important. You're on the record. It's public. It's a critical part of our process. But I also have found that you can uncover what is in an individual's heart and mind when you have a one-on-one conversation or a small group closed door conversation. And I think that is also very important. These groups that come to Austin and knock on the doors of their legislators and their staff, and they say, okay, what are you working on? How are you doing this? Here are the things that are important to us and that we would expect you to work on or to help sponsor or to help get scheduled for a committee hearing. So that's a role that I have taken. I have found that individuals sometimes are intimidated in those scenarios. And so I feel like it's a role that I can play and one that I've done quite frequently.
Okay, thank you. Please describe any specific ways that you have personally supported the work of the conservative grassroots movement in Texas.
Sure. Well, nothing is more important to me than protecting life as far as legislative priorities. But second to that is protecting family values and the role that they have in schools and in medical situations, protecting girls and women's rights in schools. Very important to me. So I have spoken at school board meetings. Those videos are available, on my website and other locations. I have advocated strongly for advancing Senate Bill 763, which is the chaplain bill, and several others. We have got to make sure our local officials also hear from us. It's not just in Austin or in DC. It's commissioners court, it's school board meetings. Those are very important. Also, as I was meeting folks and traveling all around the state for business and other purposes, I just have found that people are very busy and they struggle to understand what's happening in our conservative movement. So last year, I did start a podcast. It's a conservative podcast called The Answer. It's focused on educating moms and dads and family members just on what's going on. What is transgender ideology? What is happening with right to life in Texas? I said it earlier that the most dangerous person in politics is an uninformed voter. So one way to advance our legislative priorities and our grassroots priorities is to educate and to inform and to, the role of chair is also building the team. We have to build the team. We have got to get folks who have been somewhat complacent for a variety of reasons. We've got to get them to operate with a sense of urgency. And so those are some of the ways that I did that.
Okay, thank you. So, Ben, let's talk about your management style. And how it is that what tactics you use to persuade and influence others to work with you.
Time is a very important tactic. Not waiting to the last minute, and other times it might be waiting to the last minute. Understanding how time is a variable in creating a sense of urgency or allowing others to be involved in the process. I have a team, family first management style. I am very decisive when it's time to make a decision and to move on. I do not like reopening the past. I'm a forward progress businessman. Sometimes making a decision with 90% of the information helps move the ball down the field. And that's what we need to do. We need to advance things. We cannot, have an issue where perfection is the enemy of progress. We have got to continue to advance our legislative priorities and our values here in Texas. But I do know the importance of this being a team. This is not command and control. We will be stronger when the SREC and those that are involved in it, like the vice chair and the chair, and even the appointed individuals, when we are operating and rowing in the same direction. That's what we need to do. And so that's how I want to start. When elected chair there at convention, the first SREC meeting that I am chairing will be on Saturday before we close the convention. And that is a message that I will deliver there and that I will continue to be a champion for, is how do we work together? I've got a lot of ideas on doing that, but my management style is definitely a coach, but on a team.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So think about a conflict or one of those fork in the road experiences in your life. Maybe it was a painful one with long-lasting impact. What shaped your decision making and your actions in that situation? And how does what you learned from that experience inform and shape your decision making and your actions today?
Well, one of the challenges in recent memory that we all faced in our personal lives, but I certainly faced in my business life, was COVID-19. I had a company that operated all across the state and even internationally, which meant a lot of jurisdictions, a lot of voices. There was a lot of emotion during COVID-19 from individuals to elected leaders. What really guided me was making the decisions around what was going to help make payroll, what was going to put food on the table for our employees, what was going to continue to deliver on our commitments to our customers. That's what guided me. So we had to make some pivots to our business model. We had to make it easier for people to work at home because they were having to deal with their kids at home, and essentially babysitting them while they're trying to do school. It's very difficult. I was very fortunate. I had much older kids, and and I lived in an area that was more flexible from a COVID-19 standpoint, but not everybody was as blessed as my wife and I were. But thinking about the needs of others, thinking about what it's going to take for them to take care of their families, for them to wake up every day with a little less stress in their life. That motivated me. That guided me. And I would say that certainly there's some character traits that were in place for me getting to that point, but though they were honed and refined through that process, and would absolutely be a part of what I bring to the Republican Party of Texas. There's an empathy and a sense of understanding that's necessary to do this job well, and perseverance, resiliency, and grit. Like, if we want to flip Travis County and make it red at some point, that's how we have to operate. If we want to help the folks in McAllen or Harlingen or Brownsville go have conversations with their neighbors who have voted generationally for Democrats, and we want them to go knock on doors and have that courage, we have to be empathetic. We have to go knock on doors with them. Those are the kinds of things that I'm prepared to do, and certainly going and navigating through COVID-19 and doing that with my businesses was formative in that process.
Okay, thank you. If you will, please reflect on the state of our state and the state of our nation with the serious challenges that are on the forefront of our minds every day. Cite what you believe are the two biggest challenges to Texas, and tell us how the RPT should address these issues and lead on these issues, and what would you do to engage in that?
So Texas is strong. Texas is unbelievably strong. We're the 8th largest economy in the world. We have got more people engaged and fired up about conservatism, about Texas, than we have ever had before. The state of Texas is strong, but we are at a tipping point. Now, George Soros has spent millions of dollars in Harris County, millions of dollars in the Valley. They are doing that, and Democrats are doing that because they believe they can flip Texas. We are at risk, and we need to do something about it. Government overreach from the federal government, whether it's restricting HUD dollars to be able to still rebuild after Hurricane Harvey and natural disasters, whether it's our border or open border policies. Joe Biden just tried to rewrite legislation himself with addressing, Title IX to allow anybody that's not a biological female to be classified as a female and as a woman. It's not going to stop unless we do something about it. So the threat of the Democrats is by far the number one issue and challenge that Texas face. The number two issue that we face is a bit more internal, and it's individuals in the Republican Party who are caught up more in maintaining the status quo and not rocking the boat as opposed to listening to what really is on the hearts and minds of the electorate, of the constituents and the folks that put them in office. I think we've seen some great, tailwinds and advances in that regard, but we need to continue it. We need to continue to make sure that people trust in the folks that they're elected to do. Government is not shrinking; it is getting bigger because people who are in power want to maintain that power. So that's a tremendous risk to Texans and kind of a sleeping giant that most voters don't really pay attention to. But we need to involve all voters in addressing that as well. But Texas, it's a great place. It's the best place. I mean, this is God's country, and the people that live here are special people. We just need to make sure that we are advocating for them and what they need.
Okay, thank you. What character qualities do you value most in your relationships, and explain why?
Well, I've touched on a few of these before, and you have to be able to lean on somebody in tough times, and knowing that they are there, whether they agree with you or not, that they're supporting you, is super important, and that comes with trust. Comes with trust, comes with integrity, comes with honesty. And I paid very close attention at the end of the impeachment trial, and when it was concluded in the Senate, I paid very close attention to how the representatives reacted after that. Did they go back to their district and explain to their constituents why they voted to impeach? Did they apologize, or did they stay firm in what they did? Those things matter, and sometimes inaction speaks volumes and creates mistrust. So I greatly value integrity, trust. An individual who's humble enough to say I made a mistake, and or somebody who's humble enough to say, what are your thoughts on this? Am I not seeing it from your vantage point? Those are people that you want on a team. And so whether it's my kids, my wife, my family, people in business, people in politics, those are the character traits that get us through the tough times. Do I want this person in the foxhole with me when the times are tough? Do I believe that they have my back, and do they believe that I have theirs? That's what I'm looking for in an individual.
Thank you. What are your thoughts on extending opportunities for booth space at the RPT convention to groups whose stated mission violates the Republican Party of Texas platform?
I'm very much opposed to that. As stated earlier, the second task that I believe is important for the chair is to be a champion for the platform. Any stated group could be a business. Doesn't just have to be a coalition or a grassroots organization. It could be a business, or it could be an individual. If they have a clear mission and a vision that is counter to the Republican Party platform, then they shouldn't have a presence. This isn't a free speech on the sidewalk situation. This isn't a First Amendment situation. This is the Republican Party getting together. We are doing business. Yes, we're going to celebrate all the great accomplishments, but we are also going to continue to push forward. We need folks who are lockstep, shoulder to shoulder in our beliefs and in our values, who are present there. Again, it doesn't mean we're going to agree with everybody on every issue, but when it comes to booth space, the individuals and teams and groups and companies and organizations need to not be counter to our party platform.
Okay, thank you. While cultural Marxism has been on the rise in our nation for many decades, during the COVID shutdowns, the covers were pulled back and more people were able to see this as they were able to understand the direct threats to children and to future generations. What can the Republican Party of Texas do better to stand in protection of children and in support of parental authority over children? And how would you lead on this matter?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, actions, speak louder than words. And regardless of running for this particular position, it mattered to me to advance these things. It mattered to involve families in our party. It mattered to go be a advocate and to deliver the hard messages in front of school boards. When I spoke in front of one school board, there were 18 people who spoke, and only one person spoke to advance the conservative policies, and that was me. But the next week, there were about 40 people that spoke, and 7 of them were conservatives and in favor of the conservative policy, but 4 of them were high school students, one of whom reached out to me and said that she spoke because she saw me on the live stream the week before speaking up. The number one thing that we can do as a party is model the behaviors. We cannot do our work. The chair can't do his or her work from behind the computer. That is just a small fraction and sliver of the job. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go everywhere. I'm going to go, just like I have in this campaign, to El Paso and Sweetwater and Lufkin and Harlingen. And if there is a need to advocate and tell people the truth, then that's what I'm going to do. We need to make sure that a handful of our legislative priorities coming out of this convention are advancing the role of parents, or protecting the role of parents, and getting government out of day-to-day lives. And that is something I'm going to pay very close attention to, and I will be very vocal on. But its advocacy is not going to stop in this campaign. It's just going to continue once elected.
Okay, thank you. In the preamble and principles of the Republican Party of Texas platform, it lists several principles the RPT is to promote. Please name a few of those for us.
So limited government, and limited government is, extremely important, because when the government gets big, that's when the Democrats step in. So the smaller government we have, the more we can promote families. Protecting life is another important one. We need to ensure that all life is valued, and advancing and promoting God in our day-to-day lives. People will ask me, well, what's your favorite plank in the platform, or what are the platform are you most enthusiastic about? And I tell them every single time, number 31. 31 is about growing God in our day-to-day lives, advancing God in public schools. The more that God is at the center of what we do, the more we are doing him favor, and he will continue to bless us.
Thank you. Can you give us some specific examples on how you have actively fought for the Republican priorities that we had last session?
Well, I feel a little redundant here, but speaking at school boards, giving, financially supporting candidates who supported those priorities, going to Austin and lobbying for those priorities. I called Not many people call their elected officials. Both my wife and I got on the phone. We called our rep, we called our senator multiple times to tell them how we felt about certain, certain issues, certain priorities. Trying to be an educator. I'm blessed. I've got time and resources to be able to invest in the Republican Party. My neighbors don't. They don't. They're very busy. So getting them involved in our precinct, educating them with what's going on locally, that gets real to folks. The local issues, how their day-to-day lives are impacted, gets very real, and that creates a sense of urgency, and people want to participate in the Republican Party. So those are some of the ways that I worked really hard to advance those things. And volunteering, block walking, participating, poll watcher. I mean, those are roles that help protect our priorities like election integrity. So sometimes you just got to roll up your sleeve and you got to do any job.
Okay, thank you. So now, Ben, now it's time for you to close the deal. This is your chance to raise any issue that I have not addressed in this interview. You can share any passion or pet peeve with the delegates and alternates to let them know more about who Ben is and why they should vote for you.
Well, I'll start off by saying I have a passion for burgers. So everywhere I go, I'm looking for the best burger joint, and I get some great recommendations around the state. So anybody has a burger joint that they want to highlight for me while I'm on the road, please let me know. But look, again, I want to thank you, Joanne and Robert and everybody else for allowing me to be here. This is not about the role of chair. Now, I got a lot of things I could be doing. I could continue to support candidates. I could continue to help the party where I live in Fort Bend County. I could start another company. I could just enjoy being retired. I could do all those things. But this is about the work that needs to get done. This is about rolling up your sleeves and being willing to raise money, to strategize on what it's going to take to get out the vote in places like the Rio Grande Valley in South Texas. What is it going to take to flip some seats in Travis County? What is it going to take to hold the line and make sure we continue to be red in places like Angelina County? Like, all that matters, but somebody has to care about doing that work. And so you're going to meet and learn about all the various candidates, all of whom bring very different things to the table. And you're going to discover that there are people who are probably just going to kind of maintain the status quo and keep the lights on. You're going to come across some folks who really, really hope that the role of chair is to be a legislator themselves. But I understand that this role, this job, the work is about beating the Democrats, holding our platform to the highest standard, using it as a banner, and beating the Democrats. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to wake up every single day focused on that mission. I'm going to be accessible. We're going to be transparent. And I'm going to help run the RPT like a business. So God bless you guys. Thank you, Grassroots America, for having me. And I look forward to meeting everybody in San Antonio.
Thank you.